Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this afternoon's briefing on COVID-19 and our community's response. Joining me once again is Sharon Sinkler. Thank you so much, Sharon, for being here. We want to remind everyone that more information is available at our website, covid19.lincoln.ne.gov, where you can learn more about how to protect yourself, your family, and our community. Nebraska has now lost 6 residents to COVID-19. And Lincoln wants to extend its heartfelt sympathies to the family and friends of those we have lost. Here in Lincoln, we have had 2 more cases confirmed, bringing the total number of lab-confirmed cases of COVID-19 to 14. One of the 2 new cases is travel-related, and I regret that the other is community spread. Here to provide more details on the health department's investigations of these 2 new cases, as well as one of the cases we reported yesterday, is Interim Health Director Pat Lopez.
Good afternoon. One of the new cases is a man in his 70s, as the mayor said, and that is a travel-related situation. He went on a cruise March 8th through the 15th, leaving and returning to port in New York City. He self-quarantined upon returning home and is now hospitalized. His close contacts are also in self-quarantine. The second case reported today is a woman in her 20s who is self-isolating. Her close contacts are self-quarantining. This case is considered community acquired. These cases, also called community spread, are ones in which the person with the COVID-19 has no travel history and no known exposure to the virus. We also wanted to update you on a case that was reported yesterday but was still under investigation. This case is also a community-acquired case, which brings the total in our community now to 3. This man is self-isolating and his close contacts are in self-quarantine. In Lancaster County, we now have 569 negative tests and currently have 5 pending tests from the public health lab. The health department is also monitoring 107 individuals due to travel history or exposure. Nebraska now has 286 cases and, as the mayor mentioned, 6 deaths. As a reminder, the drive-through COVID-19 testing will continue to be focused for the following high-priority populations: healthcare workers, first responders, those working in nursing homes and correctional facilities, and residents of nursing home and group homes and other vulnerable populations.
As the number of cases grow with expanded testing capacity, we want to take this time to remind everyone to continue to practice good hand washing techniques for 20 seconds, or in the absence of being able to do that, to use hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol content. Remember to practice social distancing. That means keeping 6 feet from others if you must be out and around other folks. It also means staying home as much as possible. In the absence of widespread testing, we are asking people to try to limit their social contacts. And if you are sick, stay home and try to separate yourself from everyone else in the household. That means isolating yourself in a separate room and ideally using a separate bathroom. Disinfect surfaces daily. And for those who are in the household of a sick person, you need to stay home too. And please call the health department hotline at 402-441-8006 for guidance on how to manage the recovery of your sick household member and to get assistance on the quarantine that you undertake for yourself. These are the techniques that will help us contain the virus and limit its spread in our community. Please take these practices seriously, and we want to thank those who have come back from out-of-state travel and imposed a quarantine on themselves and monitored themselves from symptoms. This is absolutely critical as we fight the spread of this disease. Moving on today, we want to shine a light on employment and SBA loans. Part of what makes this crisis so challenging is that it's hitting us at multiple levels. At the public health level, with the virus's impact on life and people's physical well-being, At the economic level, with its impact on people's livelihoods and ability to sustain themselves, and at the social level, with its impact on people's ability to connect with one another in the most natural and fundamental ways. It's also challenging because this crisis has not just been limited to one sector or to one segment of our population. Just as no one is immune to the virus itself, almost no one has been immune to the economic impact of the virus. Whether you're a business owner or an employee, a tenant or a landlord, we know people are struggling right now. Fortunately, our community has been resilient in the past, and we will be resilient going forward. After the 2008 financial crisis, Lincoln was named one of the most recession-proof cities in the country because of our ability to withstand turbulence in the national economy. While we won't get through this current crisis unscathed, we may be able to weather the storm with relative strength if our community quickly adapts and utilizes available economic resources, and if we continue to lift up both ourselves and others. A rising tide really does lift all boats here in Lincoln. There are many economic resources available now in response to COVID-19. Congress recently passed legislation that expands the resources available to those facing reduced or lost work hours, as well as the resources available to small businesses that are negatively impacted by COVID-19. With regard to workers facing reduced or lost work, the bill increased the number of people who are eligible to apply for unemployment benefits, increased the amount of unemployment benefits by $600 per week, extended the length of time for receiving unemployment benefits, and waived some requirements for obtaining unemployment benefits. If you're self-employed or if you're an independent contractor, like a Lyft driver, and if you're having less work as a result of COVID-19, you may be eligible for unemployment benefits. If you've been laid off, furloughed, or had your hours reduced, you may be eligible. If you have to stay home to care for a child as a result of school closures, you may be eligible. And if you're otherwise unable to obtain work as a result of COVID-19, you may be eligible. To apply, go to neworks.nebraska.gov and register for an individual account. For assistance with completing the application, you can call this number, 855-995-8863. Through neworks.nebraska.gov, you also have access to new jobs and employment opportunities. While many businesses have had to lay off staff or reduce employees' hours, some businesses are still hiring, like grocery stores, healthcare facilities, and manufacturing companies, to name just a few. Today, we are fortunate to have Brian Seck, the Director of Workforce Development for the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development here. He has been hard at work gathering information on a daily basis about who is still hiring in Lincoln, and he's been sharing this information with job seekers through a variety of means, including through the website neworks.nebraska.gov. We want to thank Brian for making it easier for Lincoln residents to find employment opportunities, even in this tumultuous time. And with that, I'd like to invite Brian to come forward to share some information with you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brian Seck. I serve as your Director of Workforce Development for the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development. And what we wanted to share today is that there are many businesses that are still hiring. For folks who have experienced decreased hours or been furloughed or laid off, there are many opportunities in our community, whether it's at Tabitha Health, Spreetail, Lincoln Industries, or any of the other companies in our community. You can find that information, like Mayor mentioned, at neworks.nebraska.gov. Also, there are many people in our community who may have lost their job, who have worked the same job for many years and always been stable. That means that person might not know how to update their resume or apply for jobs online. If you need assistance, the American Job Center is here to assist you. The American Job Center is located at 1111 O Street in the SCC building, Southeast Community College building downtown. That's open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. The American Job Center is abiding by the 10 or less person rule. However, the wait list or the wait time has been about 10 to 15 minutes for people to get in. The American Job Center has people who will be there to help you apply, update your resume, cover letter, or any other information so that you're never alone when you're working through this process. People can also apply for unemployment insurance, the Department of Labor, and unemployment insurance workers will also help you apply for jobs. One aspect that we've been successful at is sharing information about jobs. So as jobs become available, and if there are any businesses out there listening, please send your information to me. You can give a call to the Chamber of Commerce and we will share this information. There are about 800 case managers and human service professionals in our community who help people. We share that information every single day, so if there's businesses that are hiring, we will get that to the people who are helping people find careers. So thank you to everyone in our community, and please stay healthy.
Thank you, Brian. I would also like to highlight that many of the jobs that are coming available right now serve critical community needs, such as ensuring access to food and health care, especially for our most vulnerable members of our community. I want to thank all of the Lincoln residents who are satisfying or looking to satisfy these newly emerging needs in Lincoln. When you take on these roles, you are truly lifting up our community, and thank you for that work. In addition to the resources that are now available to those facing reduced or lost work, Congress has made available additional resources to small businesses and nonprofit organizations that are suffering as a result of COVID-19. The U.S. Small Business Administration, or SBA, is providing cash flow assistance to businesses and nonprofits through 2 new loan programs, the Paycheck Protection Program and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. Through these programs, businesses and nonprofits can receive up to $10 million in funding to help cover payroll and other costs, and can quickly receive a cash advance of $10,000. David Brown, a business owner and attorney at Brown Immigration Law, is here to discuss these critical business lifelines. And on Monday morning, he's going to do a virtual walkthrough of how to apply for these loans. After this walkthrough, you'll be in a strong position to apply for the loans immediately after the session. And we want to thank him for the initiative he's taken to make this opportunity more widely accessible to those in our community. With that, I'd like to invite David Brown up to the podium to speak about his work.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, I'm a practicing attorney. I have my own firm, but I'm not viewing this from an attorney's perspective. I'm viewing it from a small business perspective. My wife has her own fitness business here in the city, and it's really sad, obviously, to see all of these businesses shuttered or partially open as a result of what's going on. And if you're like me, you didn't think that 2020 was going to turn out this way. Well, the good news is there is this program, and I've already been through the program now for both my business and my wife's business. We submitted our applications today, so I have that kind of a perspective from a small business owner, and I'm going to share that on Monday. And the big news I think that everyone should follow is that this particular loan, they call it a loan, but it really does act like a grant. So part of what I'm going to talk about on Monday is not just how you apply, but how you qualify after you apply to ensure that what you spend the money on is actually going to be forgiven. So it really will be treated like a grant. And the whole idea behind this, quite frankly, is so that employers don't take this, immediate step and decide, I need to let these people go. Or people who, had, if you ran a restaurant, you had to shut down and you couldn't have your staff, I get that decision to close and the idea that you had to furlough people. But this is now your opportunity to rehire those people because that particular loan is protected. So I'm going to walk people through it. We're going to encourage people to go through it and make that application. I will answer and I will stay and answer questions that I can. If you want some information over the course of the weekend, you can obviously browse at your leisure. SBA.gov, the Small Business Administration's website. It'll walk you through both the disaster loan and the Paycheck Protection Loan process. You can access the forms. I'm going to get into how you determine what your loss is and what your loan will be, and then talk about how you get that forgiven after the fact. Now, of course, this is an emerging program, so not all the details are there. It was interesting to see that a regulation came out last night, literally at 6 o'clock, and the forms that I filled out earlier in the week thinking I was ahead of the curve suddenly changed, and I had to do new forms. So we'll have all the up-to-date information Monday at 9 a.m. I'll share it with everyone, and I'll stay here as long as I need to answer questions. So thank you for participating. And I have this vision of people being able to hire their people back, and even if you can't reopen right now, maybe you can retool, maybe you can work on new menus, maybe you can work on cleaning your facility, maybe you can do something from an infrastructure perspective with your folks that'll get you ready for when you can reopen. And so that's really what we see this value in doing this. And this program may get extended, so there's that benefit as well.
Thank you so much for your leadership, David. And I want to note that that virtual session, How to Apply for SBA Loans, is Monday at 9 a.m., and we will be putting that available on the City of Lincoln's Facebook account, as well as on the city's YouTube account and LNK TV. I also want to bring your attention to another important opportunity for small businesses and nonprofits in our community. InMotion, in partnership with Generator and the Lincoln Partnership for Economic Development, announced an initiative to support Nebraska small businesses by offering free coaching and information on SBA loans, changes in employment law, relief programs, and mental health resources. There's no cost to participate. To join, go to gen8link.com. That's GEN, the number 8, LNK.com. We really are all in this together. When our small businesses get loans, they're able to support their employees and keep them on payroll. And when our landlords get financial assistance, they're able to help their tenants. And when our employees and tenants and currently unemployed residents are adequately supported, they are able to sustain themselves, pay their bills, help kickstart their economy, and maintain their well-being. When one thrives, we all thrive. Finally, I'd like to note that we have a great deal of information in our resident resources and business resources links on our city website, covid19.lincoln.ne.gov page. The economic resources available to residents and businesses are constantly evolving, and we will continue to update these pages, the resident resources and the business resource pages, with the latest information and opportunity. With that, I want to conclude by sharing some information about other great ways that our residents are taking care of each other. First, thank you to Nebraska's First Lady Suzanne Shore, who announced a state relief fund yesterday. The Nebraska Impact COVID-19 Relief Fund will help our fellow Nebraskans in communities across the state. Donations also continue to come into the Lincoln COVID-19 Response Fund. We'll have an update and news on the first grants soon. And you can find out more about how to help our local relief fund and donate at lcf.org. Next, I want to give a shout out to a team that is making thousands of face shields for medical professionals across the state. Thank you to Innovation Studio, UNL Engineers, Virtual Incision, and Lincoln Tool and Design for adapting to these emerging needs in our community and filling them with heartfelt work and determination. Also, the Children's Museum will bring smiles to many children's faces tomorrow with a unusual and adapted sort of parade. The parade units will stand on the street, and the public is invited to drive by. The free event is from 10 a.m. to noon tomorrow. Your favorite superheroes and other parade favorites will be on both sides of P Street from 13th Street to Centennial Mall. You can check out the details at lincolnchildrensmuseum.org. And last but not least, Mother Nature just had to weigh in recently. Mother Nature brought us a dose of winter last night. The City of Lincoln Winter Operations Team began sending out their reliable updates last night at 7, then again today at 4 a.m. in my email inbox, and again at noon. 20 snow fighters did what they always do. They hit the streets in the dark of night to ensure that our arterials and bus routes were clear for the few cars that are still making the morning commute. And by the way, vehicle traffic in Lincoln is down approximately 42% since the pandemic began. So thank you to all of you who are doing your part to stay home and stop the spread of COVID-19. But I hope you will all join me in thanking our winter operations team as well for working so hard even in the midst of a pandemic. They are serving our community no matter the weather. And that's proof that some things here in Lincoln are happening just according to normal schedule. With that, we will open it up for Q&A. If you have questions, please pose them and we will do our best to give you answers.
Hi, Mayor. This is Bill Shammer with 1011. Quick question. I've seen some other cities do this in central Nebraska right now. I know you are encouraging people to get outside while being mindful of social distancing. Is there any thought to actually closing city parks with 2 more cases of community spread?
You know, we are not in discussions about closing community parks because we know that to get through this long period of social distancing, people need opportunities to get outside and exercise and enjoy the fresh air. And in many times, if you're in an environment where there's great airflow, you're actually quite safe as long as you're practicing social distancing and staying 6 feet away from other people. We have, of course, closed playgrounds that we are not able to disinfect with the regularity that would be necessary to protect the public. So we ask that if you do enjoy our parks and trails, practice 6 feet of distance from others. Do not use the playgrounds or the basketball courts. Do not engage in activities that will bring you in close contact with other folks. But this is still a wonderful way for us to get through this together. And we are so lucky that in Lincoln, Nebraska, we have an incredible trails network that has been built over decades by community volunteers, donors, and our Parks and Rec Department and the Parks Foundation. You know, that asset was something that we all appreciated before this, but even more now in this moment of extreme challenge.
Mayor, can you remind people here that the water fountains and the restrooms are closed?
And thank you. We do want to remind you that the water fountains and restrooms are closed also to protect the public's safety. So plan accordingly before you hit the trails.
Riley with the Journal Star with the dovetail question from that.
Thanks, Riley.
What consideration's been given to the further, continued operations at City Hall and other city buildings in terms of public access now that there are 2 more community spread cases? And is there a threshold or a certain trigger that you are considering to weigh whether to close or seek closure of City Hall?
Well, to be honest, I only found out right before this briefing the details of the investigation, so we haven't had a chance to have a conversation like that, but we are evaluating hour by hour, day by day, how we need to adapt and evolve to, again, protect the safety and health of all of our residents, and that includes city workers. So we will continue to adjust our operations as needed.
Riley again. I had a question for Director Lopez.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Riley.
Good afternoon, Pat. Have there been any indications that undiagnosed cases of COVID-19 have shown up in the inpatient emergency rooms or of the hospitals in town, or have there been any spikes in hospitalizations for respiratory but non immediately diagnosable illnesses to date? I mean, do you have a sense for that at the health department?
That's a great question, Riley. Actually, we monitor that on a daily basis, and we haven't seen any spikes that would be of any concern outside of the normal. If that starts occurring, then we immediately begin to investigate by contacting, and actually we're in daily contact every morning with our hospitals. We meet every morning and discuss what's happening in the health system, and then we have weekly calls with our providers in the communities, as well as our daily monitoring that comes in that we look at. So we have a great system to really be alert to any sudden changes or spikes.
I have a question from William Padmore at KLIN. Has there been any talk with the city's sanitation workers about adding health protocols or extending trash pickup days?
We have certainly asked the folks at Lincoln Transportation and Utilities to make their continuity of operations plans, to be talking with our trash haulers and the the sanitation crews that keep our city safe, and they are working on all those kinds of plans. We don't have any cause for concern at this moment, but we can certainly get a little more information to you directly from Donna Garden at Lincoln Transportation and Utilities on those topics, and then I'll invite Director Lopez back up to speak to that question as well.
We have frequent contact with our trash haulers from the health department. We have a great working relationship with them, and so we've been able to advise them of certain things that they can follow for their health and safety. And we haven't had any issues arise recently about the trash pickup, but we would certainly know between Donna at LTU and the health department if we're experiencing any other challenges in the community.
One way we can all support folks who collect our refuse is to make sure it is properly bagged and sealed up so that they are not coming into closer contact with things that have come out of our homes. So please, that's another way you can be a hero in our community and protect those who are continuing to work and make sure that essential city services are performed. Bag up your trash properly, seal it. Don't have loose papers or materials that might come into contact with the people who are dutifully reporting to work to take care of that for you. Any other questions? All right, well, just last reminder, if you are ill, stay home and separate yourself from others in your household. Other people in your household should self-quarantine and seek the advice of medical care providers or the Lincoln Health Department at 402-441-8006. This is one of our key strategies to limiting the spread, and particularly the community spread of COVID-19. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay safe and well.